Brexit Britain cares more about European security than Germany, a political expert has claimed, as fears of another Russian military foray into Ukraine continue to mount. Dr. Chris Newton, former Conservative Party defense policy advisor, made his remarks after Germany once again refused to sell weapons to Ukraine in the face of Russian aggression. This comes in stark contrast to Britain, which has begun to supply Ukraine with anti-tank weapons to help it defend itself from a potential invasion, during a standoff with Russia which has massed troops near the Ukrainian border. Dr. Newton tweeted, "Turns out that Brexit Britain cares more about European security than Germany does." And Remainers were telling us that the EU was the best hope for peace on the continent. While German political scientist Marcel Dersus said Germany's decision could destroy trust in Central Europe every minute of every day. He tweeted, "The great tragedy of Germany's position here is that it's destroying trust in Central Europe every minute of every day, and Germans don't even realize it." They think of themselves as great allies and great Europeans, while its neighbors are left to shake their head in disbelief. This crisis once again illustrates the bitter truth that Europeans are fundamentally unable to look after themselves. With 100,000 troops on Ukraine's border, Europeans are in meeting after meeting struggling to agree on anything that comes close to a meaningful common response. The criticism comes after German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock once again rejected the request by the Ukrainian Foreign Minister to supply arms to Ukraine, saying, "The restrictive German arms export policy is based on our history." The decision was blasted as very frustrating and bitter by Ukraine's ambassador to Germany, Andriy Melnik. But speaking during a joint news conference in Kiev with her Ukrainian counterpart Dmytro Kuleba, Ms. Baerbock said she hoped mounting tensions with Russia over Ukraine could be solved by diplomacy, but she warned Moscow would suffer if it does attack the country. Ms. Baerbock said, "Each further aggressive act will have a high price for Russia, economically, strategically, politically." Diplomacy is the only way. Mr. Kuleba said Ukraine and Germany were united in pushing to revive four-way peace talks on ending the war in eastern Ukraine in the so-called Normandy format, which includes Germany, France, Ukraine, and Russia. Excluded from much of last week's talks, Ukraine has repeatedly sought and received reassurances from allies that no decisions would be taken about its future without its involvement and assent. He said, "It is important for us now that neither Berlin nor Paris makes any decisions about Ukraine without Ukraine, and does not play any game behind our backs in relations with Russia. This is the key now." For this I want to thank Annalena for taking such a principled position. Talks between Moscow and Western states on Russia's deployment of tens of thousands of troops along Ukraine's border ended with no breakthrough last week. Western countries say they fear Russia is preparing a pretext for a new assault on Ukraine, which it invaded in 2014. a cyber attack against Ukraine has further inflamed tensions. But Moscow denies any plans for an attack, but has said it could take unspecified military action unless the West agrees to a list of demands, including banning Ukraine from ever joining NATO. As a result, Kiev asked Western countries for arms to help it protect itself. In response, Defense Secretary Ben Wallace told Parliament the first systems were already delivered to Ukraine on Monday and a small number of British personnel would provide training for a short period of time. He said, "We have taken the decision to supply Ukraine with light anti-armor defensive weapon systems." Mr. Wallace did not specify the number or type of weapons that were being sent, but said, "They are not strategic weapons and pose no threat to Russia. They are to use in self-defense." These are short-range, but nevertheless it would make people pause and think what they were doing, and if tanks were to roll into Ukraine, invade it, then they would be part of the defense mechanism. Germany has supported Ukraine with aid and diplomatic backing in its standoff with Moscow since Russia seized the Crimean Peninsula and backed separatists in the Donbas region in 2014. But there are points of contention. Ukraine opposes Nord Stream 2, a pipeline, yet to open, that would ship Russian gas to Germany, circumventing transit through Ukraine.